Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Welcome to the PetPain.com studios for another edition of the Full Melt Show. Adjusting levels. Who's been spinning my knobs up here at the studio? Somebody's been touching my knobs. You don't get to touch my knobs without permission here in the studio. I don't know who did it. I'm going to blame the dog. I don't think it was the dog. The studio dog does not have knob-turning fingers. That's all I'm saying. This is evidence of either my own debauchery. Debauchery is not a good term for that. It's not debaucherous. My own lunacy? No, lunacy is not a good word either. What's the word I'm looking for? My own accidental ineptitude? That's what I'm looking for. Accidental ineptitude. I just coined something, I think. Marijuana, cannabis news. Hemp. Hemporama. Waxorama. We are reporting the news to you here today on this very show as we do every weekday. I mean, we make a living out of this. No, we don't. We don't make any money at this. If anything, I pay to do this. Is that sad or what? I mean, I don't know. I need a good salesperson. Let's just shout that out there right now. If you're somebody that's connected to the marijuana community anywhere in the country, but specifically if you have a wide range of marijuana business connections, and you know the people who like to advertise are the people that are, kind of ducking their head below the radar because there's various and sundry forms of people in cannabis industry. And I think that it's about time we hired a salesperson. We need somebody, an advertising salesperson is what we need on this show. Because I tell you what, there's a lot of stuff that costs. It's some pricey things we got to do to make this all work. And we're not trying to come to the table with standard fare. We'd like to come to the table with something a little more than fast food that you bought at McDonald's. We'd like to come to the table with something we prepared for you specially, just for you, every day. Some kind of bit of specialized content designed just for you. And in order for me to focus in that place, I'm going to need an advertising salesperson. So if you know somebody, write it down. It's thefullmelt@gmail.com. Thefullmelt@gmail.com. Send me a link if you're interested. And drop me a line and we'll talk turkey about the advertising sales position that is open here. It used to be back in the day I had an opportunity to do sales and programming and all this stuff. It's kind of been all stuff that I've got to do, but it's gotten so big now. It's gotten so broad. It was a weekend thing. It was one thing. I could do it like that because I could spend the rest of the week programming the show, right, or selling the show, depending on which one was going on. But now every day, I've been preparing for the show every single day. And now that it's gotten, 5 times bigger than it used to be, and sometimes 6 or even 7 times bigger than it used to be, because sometimes now we're doing, weekend broadcasts. I would love to do some kind of specialty broadcast from up at the Michigan Normal Mackinac Bridge Walk. If you're unfamiliar with the Mackinac Bridge, it spans the Straits of Mackinac between the upper and lower peninsulas of the state. It's some 5 miles in length from one end to the other. Used to be, I think, the world's longest suspension bridge. It has since been eclipsed by multiple bridges. I think it's still the largest. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken on this, but I think it's still, if not one of the largest, it's the largest in this country. I think there might be 1 or 2 larger already. But every year we walk that bridge span with our Michigan Normal shirts on in unison because everybody, I guess I got to back this up a little bit. On Labor Day every year, it's traditional ever since I think the bridge was built. Back in, 55? I think they opened it up in 55. It was a technological wonder of its day. Obviously, it is getting elderly. But the big news flash is that the governor has always walked across. He starts that bridge walk every single year, and there are hundreds, probably at least 100,000 people or so that go across that bridge. If it doesn't reach the 100,000 number, it's at least tens of thousands. There is a stadium full of people from, I think, 7 o'clock in the morning or something when the sun comes up. And then they close it down to, so there's 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south. One half the bridge, they reduced to 2 lanes, 1 lane going north, 1 lane going south. 2 lanes are for bridge walking south only. And like I said, it's a 5-mile span, so you don't have people going in both directions on the walk. You can only go from the upper peninsula to the lower peninsula. And they line the entire span. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I think it's kind of cool. They line the entire span with National Guardsmen with a little box lunch. And they all sit there along the edge of the bridge because they don't want you getting too close to the edge of the bridge. And it seems like, Border Patrol and, port security and bridge security and strait security. I don't know who's all out there. But between the National Guard, who lines the entire span every year, by the way, for security, they'll check you if you walk across. There's most of the bridge during its main span where there's no land underneath because there's a abutment that has land underneath, but where it goes over water, it changes from pavement to this iron grid, and you can see straight down 180 feet below you into the Straits of Mackinac. It's kind of scary when you look down. Don't look down. If you're afraid of heights, don't look down. But the reason they put the gridding there is because there's such high winds on occasion in the Straits of Mackinac because it is just like a little windy place right there. I mean, it's where the land ends and the sea begins, and it's just a little spot some 5 miles wide, so the breeze can be brisk. And you get that sweep off the lake, off Lake Superior, off one of the other lakes. And so you end up with these high wind conditions that have actually blown cars over the edge of the rail of the Mackinac Bridge. That bridge does not have a really high rail on it. I mean, it's only like waist high. I know of at least one case where it blew a Yugo. Remember the Yugos made in the former Yugoslavia? It doesn't exist anymore. They had a war over there and split up. But the former Yugoslavia used to make these Yugos back in, I don't know, was it late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there. Little tiny cars. You could actually pick them up and walk them around. But this bridge span is epic in length. You can't use, there's no porta potties lining any place. You can't stop along that 5-mile bridge. And I'll tell you, my teeth are floating every time I get across that bridge span. No matter how much I try and prepare, there's porta potties at both ends. I use one at each end. But something in that 5-mile span without walking, because you got to bring something to drink. By the time you get to the other end, you're running for the 6-man porta potty because you're not going to get in line behind the 1-man one. In and out. It's crazy, but it's an awesome time. We're going to do it again this year. If you're in the Michigan area, or even if you're not, if you want an awesome vacation plan for Labor Day, which is coming up. What is it? September 7th? I mean, it's next weekend. So what is that? Next Monday, I think, is Labor Day. It's the first Monday in September, I believe. Isn't that how it works? Second Monday? I don't know. It's the first Monday, so it'd be the 7th. So you got the week. It's a nice 3-day weekend. It's the official end of the summer. Man, I'm glad that it got warm out here because the pool where I stay, they got a community pool, and I haven't managed to make it into that pool the last 3 or 4 years I've been here. And so I've made it a mission of mine to climb into that pool. I hope you'll make it a mission of yours to join us on the Bridge Walk because it's what we do every fall. We've made it I think the tradition started some 3 years ago. We went up, might have been 4 years ago. I'm not sure if I was part of the first Bridge Walk or not. I might have been there on the second one. I don't think I could make it to the first one. And then they organized a bus, I think. That was the first time I could go because they brought, they put together a bus for some people. And, you could ride the bus up there and back, which worked out really well. The problem with that crazy bridge walk, if you've never done it before and you're going to come with us, be prepared to... The parking situation is crazy because they've got it's a really sparsely populated area. It's way out, it's kind of in the sticks, the communities. The city of what is it, St. Ignace right there? It's a small city. It's really tiny. It's really almost village-like. If you were to take it downstate, it would definitely be a village. Up there, it's a city. But the thing about that is what am I telling you about St. Ignace for? Oh, all the people. So you got all these people up there, and this is what I want you to be prepared for, is the parking situation. So because you could only go south on the bridge, what does this tell you? Well, you're going to end up 5 miles on the south side of the bridge, so you can't drive north on the bridge and then park and then go south. How are you going to get back north on the bridge? This presents a problem. So the way they do it is like every school bus in the entire, from northern Michigan, from the UP, and from the lower part of northern Michigan. It seems like all the school buses up there, hundreds of them, get in. I don't know exactly how many buses, but it's a sea of buses. And so you're going to have to pay $5 a head to get in queue and get on a bus. So you'll park locally there somewhere. I don't think they charge you to park. Depends on where you go. There are some places that do charge you to park. But if you park far enough away and want to walk, and it's usually great weather, that's what we usually do. It doesn't cost you anything until you get in line. Then you're going to have to pay $5 a head, unless they change the price. It's always been $5 when I went there. But that's the fare to get on the bus to go north, and then you get off the bus, and then there's a sea of porta potties and lines to get in it, and then the beginning of the bridge walk. Now that starts every year at sunrise. I think it starts officially at 7 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, and it usually does. At 11 o'clock, they switch it up. So they'll take the 2 lanes and reduce it to 1 lane, squeezing everybody over as the bridge walk ends. And then they'll sweep it with the state police, and then you can't walk on the bridge the rest of the year. That's what makes that bridge walk so cool. It's the only time of the year you're allowed to actually walk across the bridge. And they guard it with the National Guard to keep you from overflowing. The MI Normal Bridge Walk happening Labor Day this coming weekend. More coming up.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements.
It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki,
Sacred Elements.
raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the big competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
You want to join us on the phone lines? We make it toll-free for you to do across the country. 1-844-420-TALK to connect with us here on the Full Melt Radio Show. Wanted to do something for you. I think I'm going to make a little musical introduction for this piece and do it like, I don't know, I think I'll do it every day maybe. The Google Marijuana Top 10. That's what I want to do. I think it's a good idea. These are the top 10 Googled stories for news if you Google marijuana news. Number 10 today, women hope to gain a foothold in Oregon's marijuana industry. And number 9. For the third time, marijuana operation in Placentia, this is out of Los Angeles, complex dogged by same dog. So apparently a dog is busted up a dispensary 3 different times for smelling like pot, I guess. On number 8. Illegal marijuana in Arizona would generate $72 million in yearly tax revenue. Number 7. Marijuana petitioners traverse state. Talking about Wyoming there. Number 6. Marijuana industry struggles with devastating wildfire season. Oh, no. Number 5. 5 golden ring. Okay. Group seeks to legalize marijuana in Florida. Wow. Number 4. Report more cities decriminalizing marijuana in Wisconsin. Number 3 on the marijuana countdown. The top 10 Google marijuana news countdown. Number 3. Marijuana may lower sperm count quite a lot. We talked about that yesterday. Number 2. Oh, wait, that was number 2. Missouri man who got life sentence for marijuana charge goes free. And the number 1 story out of the Wall Street Journal says more college students use marijuana daily. Study finds. Let's examine, shall we? This, according again to the Wall Street Journal. Participants smoked marijuana during the annual Hash Bash at the University of Michigan campus in Ann Arbor in April. U.S. college students are now more likely to smoke marijuana on a daily basis than cigarettes, according to a survey. College students in the U.S. are now more likely to smoke marijuana on a daily basis than cigarettes as pot smoking rates continue to climb, according to the results of a nationwide survey released Tuesday. That's today. The long-term study by researchers at the University of Michigan also shows student use of illicit drugs of all kinds is on the rise. Nearly 40% of students reported using some sort of drug during a 12-month period ending in 2014, up from 34% of students in 2016, 34 to 40. The increase primarily comes from greater use of marijuana, but also amphetamines and ecstasy. And although cocaine is used by a smaller number of students, it's used also on the rise, according to the study.
Marijuana use on campus has been on the rise since 2006, according to a series of studies by researchers at the University of Michigan. And the number of students who smoke pot daily is at its highest level since 1980, when the data was first compiled. There's no question that marijuana has risen considerably, the use, says Lloyd Johnston, principal investigator for the Monitoring the Future study. And in December, he says, we released results on secondary school students, and we're seeing a rise in daily marijuana use there as well. Nearly 6% of college students in 2014 reported smoking marijuana on a daily or near daily basis, up from 3.5% in 2007, 7 years earlier. This comes as fewer students see pot as a health threat. Only 35% of high school graduates surveyed in 2014 said regular pot use is dangerous, down from 55% in 2006. So, about 1 in every 17 high school students uses marijuana on a daily basis, the report says, according to findings released in December by the university. Only 5% of college students reporting daily cigarette use in 2014, a major drop from the 19% of students reporting daily use of cigarettes back in 1999. Students' use of alternatives to traditional smoking, such as e-cigarettes or vaporizers, are relatively new and have not yet been fully tracked. Obviously, they didn't exist when they started these studies. Other studies show cigarette alternatives have become much more popular. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the use of e-cigarettes among middle and high school students nearly tripled from 2013 to 2014, as shown in the 2014 National Youth Tobacco Survey. About 13% of students reported using an e-cigarette at least once a month. Kids, stay away from the nicotine. It's one of those lifelong things. You'll never be able to walk back from nicotine addiction if it happens to you. In fact, if you're ever addicted to anything in your lifetime, you'll always be addicted. It'll never go away. Just because you stopped smoking doesn't mean you're still not addicted to cigarettes. You clearly are. This is why you're a non-smoker and a good choice. I need to be part of that pack. Today, more students use e-cigarettes than conventional cigarettes, and hookah or water pipe use roughly doubled during the one-year period, according to the results of the Youth Tobacco Survey, which was released in April. E-cigarettes, vapes, and hookahs often come in flavors like mint or berry. Some synthetic flavors don't taste like tobacco at all. The Michigan study confirms the surging popularity of e-cigarettes, even as many traditional tobacco products decline. The use of illicit drugs other than marijuana also continued on a years-long incline, the study indicated. Students have likely begun using more amphetamines in hopes of performing better on tests, Mr. Johnston said. The Monitoring the Future study has been conducted for 35 years by the University of Michigan and is funded in part by the National Institutes of Health. More than 1,000 full-time college students are sampled across the country each year. While drug use is on the rise, that study also showed that half of college students hadn't used any drug during the past year, and 3/4 hadn't used an illicit drug during the past month before the study. The use of synthetic marijuana or spice is on the decline, as is salvia, and so-called bath salts have never been popular among college students. College students also report that drinking and binge drinking, defined as having 5 or more drinks in a row, is also on the decline, though still higher than among peers who aren't in college. Some 5% of students report engaging in extreme binge drinking, 15 or more drinks in a row at some point within the 2 weeks of the survey. There are still a sizable number of students who consume alcohol at particularly dangerous levels, Mr. Johnston said. So that's the deal. That's the story. The Wall Street Journal. I'm going to see if I can I play this little bit of video for you? I'll play this little. This is a short answer from the Wall Street Journal. Let's see if it comes up here without a commercial. I don't know. It looks like commercially to me so far. It's got to be commercially. Okay, I'm not going to. Retirement. Yeah, it's a stupid commercial. Screw your retirement commercial. You need it head on. Yeah, here we go.
Here's a sign of the high times. More American college students use marijuana each day than smoke cigarettes. According to a newly published survey, America's young scholars crossed this THC tipping point last year for the first time when around 6% of full-time college students used marijuana on a daily basis. Only 5% smoked cigarettes daily, and 4% used alcohol daily. You can see on this chart that daily marijuana use among college students cooled off in the 1980s, but it's been rising steadily since the mid-1990s. So in addition to the new daily use numbers, the survey also says around 1 in 5 college students has smoked marijuana at least once in the past month. What's behind these trends? Only about a third of high school graduates surveyed last year said pot is dangerous. Compare that to 2006, when more than half said pot use was potentially a problem. As far as cigarettes, the trend among college students mirrors a new government survey that finds the smoking rate for adults continues dropping. As little as 15% of adults report they are current smokers, down from 17% last year. Surveys indicate more students are smoking e-cigarettes and hookahs these days, but experts don't know how much of a role these devices have played in the reduction of the smoking rate. What about other illegal drugs besides marijuana? Take pot out of the picture, and illicit drug use has continued to decline, with the exception of the attention deficit medication Adderall. Around 10% of college students say they took it last year without a doctor's prescription. That's twice the percentage of those who used ecstasy. As for alcohol, 43% of college students report they'd been drunk at some point in the past month, down a bit from 2006. But here's the real headline. The percent of college students getting high is the highest since 1980.
And
That's the short answer.
I wonder why. Yeah, I'm just saying. Well, I don't wonder why. They just explained to you why. I mean, okay, so I was in college. I was a late bloomer to college. I left high school and did other stuff, and then I was like, you know what? Now that I've had a break from, regular school, I want to go investigate college on my own. I didn't want to run off with the rest of the pack. I didn't. I was sick of school. I hated it, not because school troubled me. It was boring me. I was one of those really smart kids. And they weren't challenging me. So I hated high school. I really did. I couldn't stand it. So I took a break from that. And then I got this new appetite for education, went back to college. So that was in the 90s, right? And if you look at the graph, you couldn't see it here on the radio, obviously, but the graph they played on that video, the whole period, like during that entire decade of the 90s, pot use, according to that survey, was down. It was like, for college students, low. So, when I was in my youth and ran off to Lansing at that point in time to live there, I lived there because you got cheaper rates to be Lansing Community College, because that was my way in, my ticket back in, is to go to community college, raise my GPA, and then move off to Michigan State University. Sparty turf, right? But it seems to me there were a sizable number of students who smoked pot. Of course, we're talking about East Lansing, where it's one of the two places in the state of Michigan, the other one being Ann Arbor, where you can have cannabis, and have been able to for decades now, in a small amount. And they're just going to take your weed from you and give you a civil infraction, basically. It's just a ticket. There's no probation. There's no fine. You're not going to go to drug court. They're not going to send you to treatment. They're not going to make you piss test you and grind you back through the system if you're positive for anything, because none of it happens. Excuse me. But it seems to me during that period, because I started back in college. I think it was at 92, and that's just another 5 years or so go on, according to that graph, where college pot use increased. And it increased most recently more in the past few years than it has, it seems like, on that whole timeline. I think the people, according to that graph, more college going kids are reporting use of marijuana on a frequent basis than ever before since 1980, when the survey began, where it was a much higher rate in 1980, closer to where it is now. Then it dips down through the 90s, and then it dips back up again. Because it was the late 90s when they did medical marijuana. And, there's always been this controversy about medical marijuana. Let's make no mistake about it. And this is why you get people, especially in states where this subject is coming on newer, has just been put in place, either medical marijuana or retail cannabis. This idea, and it's frustrating too, New states, when they come on board, they're still naysayers, it seems. I don't think it was this way in Colorado, but I didn't live there, and I didn't live through that experience. It seems like they had a slightly different experience from jury nullification there. But when new states come on, there still seems to be this pushback from people who are part of that cult, the programmed cult by the drug war people, the Just Say No people. It's a tremendous waste of time. Non-effective. Probably one of the biggest wastes of U.S. tax dollars in the entire history of our country, besides the intentional waste that's happening at the Pentagon at the behest of cities that are now dependent upon the military traffic that jams their town to stay alive. If you close the base, you close the town. And people don't want to do that. So the Pentagon continues to spend money through congressional appropriations, absent the Pentagon's approval, because the Pentagon's like, we don't need that base anymore. It's obsolete. We got this stuff. Now we got these other systems in place. The base is not needed. Pentagon says we're keeping it open. It's obsolete. We're keeping it open. We're keeping it open because it's basically, the government teat out there, isn't it? That town doesn't exist without those military peeps, so we're keeping it open, regardless of the expense. That's the kind of thing that's got to stop in this country, along with the drug war. So you get this pushback from local states when it's happening, but so much of the information is twisted, is filtered, the wording is carefully chosen. I'll give you a quick example of this. In Ohio, the petition language, and they fought this in court and lost, by the way. The petition language for Responsible Ohio to get their, oligopoly done, and it's looking bleak that that'll ever happen. Even if it gets voted in, it's got a lot of other hurdles to overcome before it can ever become law. Unless that wins a court challenge. That's the only, caveat to that statement. The petition that you signed said for adults, adult use 21 and over. It is retail adult use. That's how it's termed. Not, they don't say the word retail. They say it's for legalized for adult use 21 and over. But they don't say it that way in the ballot petition. They use negative language. And they, like I said, they actually sued over this and some other language that was, negatively impacting the statement because that's not what people signed. How did they put it? Instead of saying adult use, legalized for adult use. I'm gonna have to look it up now. I'm gonna have to look it up over the commercial break and see what. I can't remember the language they use, but it's deceitful. It in effect says the same thing, but the problem is, it gives it a negative spin. I mean, that's what it is. It's a negative spin, and clearly it was a negative spin put in place by the people that put the ballot language on the ballot. Not necessarily the petition language that you signed when the petition was being circulated. I'll give you the answer to that question, and we'll go on through one of these other stories next.
You're getting the full melt.
Get ready, let's go. Hey, na, 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 na. Oh, hey, now, let's go. Yeah, I've got style. I'll make it wild. I'll change it up and switch it up so versatile. I'll be myself, and I'm gonna let everybody know.
We have the latest styles to mix it and mash it. So make it your own and bend the trend. JCPenney. When it fits, you feel it. During the JCPenney Back to School Hot Sale, get an extra $10 off when you spend $25 or more with coupon. Nike, Converse, Levi's, and other exclusions apply.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with max power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
All right, so I looked it up during the commercial break, and the answer to the question is contained within the following story. I'll just give it a little glance over here. Responsible Ohio taking complaints about what the pro-pot group says is misleading in bipartisan ballot language. Not bipartisan, rather partisan ballot language. That means probably saying it's Republican ballot language. To the Ohio Supreme Court. So they're challenging this at the Supreme Court. This was 4 days ago, this article was posted at Cincinnati.com. The group promoting marijuana legalization demanded that the court remove language from the ballot initiative that Responsible Ohio says was drafted intentionally confusing voters in November, according to a 139-page complaint filed Thursday. That's last week. The wording was approved last week by the GOP-controlled ballot board in a 3-2 vote along party lines. The group says language headed to the November ballot overstates how much pot could be sold or swapped and doesn't make it clear that any store selling marijuana would need approval from local voters to set up shop, according to the court filing. The language does not include information about marijuana research or specific diseases it could treat. Responsible Ohio also takes offense to the title drafted by Ohio Secretary of State John Husted, a Republican who opposes marijuana legalization. It reads, Issue 3 grants a monopoly for the commercial production and sale of marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes. That's what he didn't like. Recreational. That was the term. That seems to have a negative connotation. See, in the ballot language, when you sign the petition, and this is what I mean by this kind of bias, this kind of wholesale confusing of the subject, right down to the place where you're trying to draw the line and change things from a ballot initiative perspective. Look, the legislators aren't doing the job we've asked them to do and clearly have the representation in polling to state. They aren't doing the will of the people. They've been holding this up. They refuse to budge on this subject and have for a long time. We're taking it to the polls ourselves with our own money and doing it ourselves. We're writing this law on our own. So clearly the legislature hasn't been representative of the people, and this happens all over the place. It happens in our federal government routinely. Example, best on the top of my head is marijuana. To this day, it still has that Schedule 1 from Richard Nixon back in 1970 when he had his head up his ass about this subject. And he clearly did. Look at the Nixon tapes. Go read them over. It's plain as day. He wanted to control the social hippies. He didn't want those hippies breaking in and screwing up his Republican numbers. Let's lock them up instead. They like that pot. Let's take that pot away. Make it Schedule 1. It's the worst drug of all. It's the most dangerous. It's a slippery slope to all the rest of that disease and garbage. It's all a bunch of hooey. It was meant to control a political spectrum of people, mostly Democrats, liberals, people of color. Specifically, it was really racial. People of color. That started in the 30s. This was just another way to wrap the hippies into it for Nixon in the 70s with that CSA. As soon as he got into office, nope, we got to control these hippies. They cannot be putting people like, what's that awful president that got shot in the head, John Kennedy? Can't be hiring any more people like him, for crying out loud. Now, there's a president who had a disease. It's going to hit me in the head now. I can't think of the name of it. Oh, what's that stupid disease called? It's a painful situation he had to endure. It's not coming to mind. I'll have to look it up later. It's another one of those things I got to tell you about something and look it up because I can't remember the stupid name of the thing. But he was a pot smoker, President Kennedy was. And there were references in his memoirs or in biographies about how Kennedy used to like to hang out at the Kennedy compound so he could sneak a joint in the pool there while nobody was observing him. There wasn't anybody around to scrutinize his use of cannabis. He would be, if the timeline had moved a little bit further up, he would be one of the guys that said, maybe if President Kennedy didn't get shot, maybe instead of Clinton being the first guy to talk about pot, I tried it in college when I was young and I was youthful, and I tried it. I didn't inhale it. I didn't do it again. That's what I did. I did try it, though. Plays the saxophone, gets elected president. Plays the saxophone for the Arsenio Hall show. Real hipster, that guy was. Look, he was the first guy to show up on any of these nighttime talk shows. You didn't see Nixon or Ford or Carter or any of these other, former presidents showing up on nighttime television to talk about anything. Here's Clinton running for office, showing up on all of them. And then he plays the saxophone, talks about his underwear to the kids of America. Boxers or briefs? I think I'm pretty sure it's boxers. See, that was all hip stuff back then. It's all old news now. You got to do crazy shit now to get elected president. You got to be. We're gonna make the Mexicans pay for a wall so they can keep those people out of our country. We're gonna make them pay for it, and then we're gonna hire them to build it cheaply. And they got to go home every night. Back to Mexico. You got to pack your crap on the other side of that wall. Keep working the wall. And then when we get the wall built, he says we're going to charge Ford Motor Company a 35% excise tax for every part that comes across the border from Mexico instead of being produced here in this country. That's how we're going to do it. I mean, you got to be crazy. These are crazy notions. It would seem the issue of border security would seem on its face when you look at them. It's not that hard. Build a wall and get it over with. Secure the border already. Have you ever been to the U.S.-Mexico border? You see the various and sundry, both state property, federal property, private rancher property, hill, dale, mountain. I mean, there's no mountains there, but there's a lot of big hills. And it's in these places where the border, just the massive public works that would have to be done. This could not be let's hire some Mexicans and make them pay for a thing. Even if you could manage to do both of those things, it wouldn't work. You would need the engineering status of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to make this happen. And it would have to be a couple of 1,000 miles of fencing. And, this would be like the same thing as what they did around New Orleans. And I could tell you personally, because my dad cleaned up after Hurricane Katrina when it came through there. He's cleaned up after Andrew. He cleaned up after the Kobe earthquake in Japan. He did natural disaster cleanup. He would grind all the crap up that was left over after tornadoes and hurricanes when they came through in big swaths. And in the case of the Kobe earthquake in Japan, it leveled the place. It was a huge earthquake, one of the biggest they'd ever sustained. Freeways broken up. They brought all their little grinders over there and grind all that stuff up into little piles of whatever, and then they bury it, and then they move on their way. But it takes forever. And so he went down there to clean up after and rebuild with the Army Corps of Engineers the walls that go around the city of New Orleans, so that when the water came over the edge, it didn't undermine the wall and cause it to collapse, which is what the former walls did. That's where the breach happened. The water poured over the top. It undermined the dirt. That flowing water undermined the dirt from the bottom of the barrier there, the seawall, what would now be the seawall. And as soon as that was undermined, the concrete fell away, and the ocean rushed in full force in many places. There were a lot of breaches. He went up and cleaned all that stuff up and redid it so there's a sloping concrete interior curve so the water can't just pour down and undermine it and erode it away and cause the wall to collapse, because it's not just a slab of concrete. It's this V-shaped thing on its side. So the water goes up against this huge chunk of concrete, but it's V-shaped. So if the water does pour over the top, it slopes down, and there's only a little water that gets in rather than the whole water wall being breached, a big giant hole in the wall. Jeez. So all I'm saying is this took them, the Army Corps of Engineers, it took them some 7 years or 8 years to do all the work to just repair this and replace the parts that needed it the most. They didn't do all of it. They just buffered it. They just tried to make it so it could survive another Cat 3. If it is Cat 4 or a Cat 5, that water's coming over the top. Prepare for another New Orleans disaster if that happens again. It's happened before. In the 60s, I think 69 was the other big hurricane that hit that area, but it wasn't as devastating as this hurricane. So all I'm saying is if you got a president doing all that stuff, being crazy. He's got to be crazy to get elected. You got to be a Ted Cruz. We're going to shut down the government over Obamacare, even though it's been in place for 7 years. Repeal and replace at all costs. You got to do crazy shit to get elected. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm not a big Hillary fan. Hillary's not as attractive to me as even Barack Obama, and Barack Obama isn't that attractive to me anymore because he's just been so soft on so many things. He's just kind of rolled with the flow on some stuff. He got his signature stuff done, stuck to that because he wasn't budging as the first black president. And I'm sorry to say it, but they're just racist Southern people. They are. They hate the fact they've got a black president running this country. He's screwing it all up. No matter what he does, he is awful. So, this once there's another black president, he probably won't be faced with that same demagoguery. But so the president, I'm not really keen on him because he should have stuck to his guns and he should have been more forceful and just got some more shit done by just being adamant about it, stepping forth and asserting some leadership, stronger leadership in some areas rather than just, we'll assert this and then let Congress decide. That's how it's supposed to happen, but when you're in a leadership role, I think you should step up above and beyond that. I think, for the sake of marijuana, the guy that's highest on my list of people that I would want to have in control of that policy is currently not Rand Paul. I think Rand Paul would screw up a lot of other things that people would be like, oh, we got the marijuana thing, but now, look at this. I think Rand Paul would probably, in my opinion, be dangerous for this country. The guy that I like most is Bernie Sanders. And all the Republicans will be like, oh, he's that liberal freak. He's a commie hippie freak. That green. Siding up with the likes of Bernie Sanders. Let me tell you, Bernie's got some common sense. He is from Washington, but he's an outsider from Washington that's willing to fight the tooth and nail necessary to get something done in that city outside of K Street. Coming back with more news next.
You're getting the full melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, The allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Really simple to find us on Facebook. Just go into the search bar on Facebook and look for The Full Melt Show. If you want to go to thefullmeltshow.com, right there at the top of the page is another link I'd like to familiarize you with. It's the iTunes link. If you click there, you'll subscribe to the content of this show. You'll get a podcast in your iTunes folder every day. As a programming note, we're off for upgrades and improvements on Thursday and Friday, with one caveat. We may be doing a live local broadcast from Central Michigan at the County Fair in Jackson. It'll be the Jackson County Fair if we do it. MI Legalize is trying to put a way together for us to get out there, hopefully. Michigan Normal, Steve Sharp and the people out there can help get us out there, and we'll be doing a live broadcast on Thursday from that location, if that comes to fruition. If not, we'll be off on Thursday for technical upgrades, Friday as well. So tomorrow will be our last show this week, and we will see you back again on Monday. That being said, I do want to promote a guest, and this is a huge story. I'm telling you, this researcher will turn your head, will make your jaw drop. I don't know why, until now. Well, I guess I do. Some other major news organization, bigger than this one, hasn't picked this story up because it's huge. Has to do, I'll tell you, and I'll save the, this is going to be on the 10th. So it'll be Thursday the 10th. Couple days after Labor Day. So right after the Labor Day break, coming back on Thursday the 10th, we're going to have on a researcher from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I was given this researcher's name by a researcher, another doctor, Dr. Christian Bogner, when we did the Cannabis Cup a couple weeks ago, or a couple weekends ago, as maybe a week and a half ago. Dr. Bogner is a pediatrician, has a child on the severe end of the spectrum of autism. Recently, there was a panel put together to hear the subject of autism as a qualifying condition, trying to get it approved in the state of Michigan. It would be the first in the country to do so. I can tell you, after having looked over the documentation and the research and the data that supports this, some 800 pages was submitted to the commission that eventually approved by a vote of 4-2 a recommendation for Laura to add this as a qualifying condition. And then Laura said, no. And I have a feeling that Mr. Zimmer was superseded by, look, if I worked for the state and I was in Zimmer's position, just telling you how corporations work, a state's a big corporation. Effectively operates the same way with some political process involved. Look, you elect your board, don't you? Your corporate board, same thing. So these guys, this Mr. Zimmer guy denied it, and he did it in a 4-page opinion. And it seems to me the language of this opinion was drafted by none other than our state attorney general, Mr. Bill Schuette, who's obviously been a lifelong marijuana opponent and tried to get this quashed at the court level, even though the court said, you've got to hear this petition. You omitted the documentation that supported the fact that cannabis works for autism. And he had Mr. Zimmer deny it based on legal grounds that are obnoxious.
And I hope that he loses this challenge in court because I think the attorney who brought this to the court, they forced him to hear this condition. They denied it. We're not going to hear this condition. It was already heard by a former panel that wasn't a legitimate panel, and they denied it. So the court said, no, you got to hear this petition. And then they heard it without the document supporting it. And then somebody objected. No, we need the documentation. It was supposed to be here. It was part of the petition. So they delayed it, got the documentation, examined it, read it, consumed it. 2 weeks later, held a vote, 4-2 approved it. Mr. Zimmer says no. So that it was told this story before. I'll tell it again probably before, it's all said and done. So Mr. Bogner, Dr. Bogner, was telling us about the spectrum of autism, what it means, all this other stuff. I got to wrap this up quickly because I got another story. I got the headline story about this Michigan. He is a parolee, not a parolee. He's being set free. This guy who was convicted on a marijuana charge, life in prison, no parole. Really? There are people that kill people that don't have this charge, that don't have this sentence. Oh, you got 10 years for killing somebody? Oh, you killed somebody a second time? You got another 16 years? This guy, life in prison, no parole, marijuana only. There's a story about that. I want to get to, I got to feed it to you in just a minute. But wrapping up this subject about this story. Her name is, she's a researcher, I guess, again, I said from MIT. Her name is Stephanie Seneff. I want to say she's a doctor. She has to be a doctor. How could you not be a doctor and be a senior research scientist at MIT? She works in the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. It's just amazing the data that this lady's put together. I've read and reviewed a number of studies published by peer-reviewed studies published about this story that I'm going to break. And it has to do with vaccination and autism. Now, this is not the traditional story you've heard about the anti-vaxxers and autism, because I labeled those people crazy long ago. The connection between mercury and thimerosal as preservatives in the vaccines given to children has been disproven time and time again by independent, again, peer-reviewed studies, multiple-fold. Many, many studies have debunked this theory. Yet the autism people say, no, there's still this connection. There has to be a connection. There's too much anecdotal information in volume for this not to be connected. And this researcher, Stephanie Seneff, has drawn a connection between the vaccination and autism and other diseases, in fact, not just autism. It's amazing stuff. I don't know that I'll be able to, but it's going to be a 2-hour live show on the 10th of September. That's Thursday. So it'll be from 8 till 10 p.m. We'll have Dr. Seneff. I'm calling her doctor. I don't even know that she is. I think she's a senior researcher. She's highly degreed, but I don't think she's a doctor. Stephanie Seneff will be on the show as our guest for the entire 2 hours. I'm going to try and bolster her with some other guests that can help talk about this connection. It is not the mercury thimerosal connection. It's not. In fact, it has to do with GMO foods pointing to the cause of autism, triggered by a vaccine. And there's more smoking. It's a bigger story than that. This same process is caused. There's breast cancer caused by this same thing that causes the autism. Same connection from GMO foods. And the people who are now putting together a breast cancer drug have got an approved breast cancer drug for this particular form of breast cancer that they know has been caused by GMO foods. And another product called glyphosate. It's got a name brand that I won't reveal to you. If you're familiar with what glyphosate is, I'm sure you can Google it and look it up. I'm not going to say it on the radio. We'll wait until the 10th. And we'll break that story when it comes because it's amazing stuff. You have to be here to witness this. It'll probably be one of the best shows we've done in quite some time. It will definitely be on the spectrum of high-caliber shows. So look forward to that on the 10th. Look, this guy out of Jefferson City, Missouri, a man sentenced to life in prison without parole. No parole! On a marijuana-related charge, walked out of a Missouri prison a free man on Tuesday after spending 2 decades behind bars. That's 20 years. That's the equivalent of natural life anyways. If you get if you get life in prison, you're going to go for 20 years and they're going to let you out or at least make you eligible for parole.
The release of Jeff Mazansky followed years of lobbying from family, lawmakers, and advocates for the legalization of marijuana who argued that the sentence was too stiff. Mazansky was sentenced in 1996 after police said he conspired to sell 6 pounds of the weed to a dealer connected to Mexican drug cartels. The life with no parole sentence was allowed under a Missouri law for persistent drug offenders. Mazansky already had 2 drug convictions, one for possession and sale of marijuana in 1984, and another for possession in 1991. That's it. Possession and sale in 1984, so he sold a bag to somebody in 1984, and another possession charge in 1991. That's the only thing that precluded his life with no parole sentence on what would be apparently strike 3. And it's not even a federal strike. Mazansky was the only Missouri inmate serving such a sentence for a nonviolent marijuana-related offense when Democratic Governor Jay Nixon agreed in May to commute his sentence. Nixon's action allowed Mazansky to argue for his freedom. Nixon cited Mazansky's nonviolent record, noting that none of his offenses involved selling drugs to children. The law under which he was originally sentenced has since been changed. Other states are reevaluating punishments for drug possession crimes. I'm glad that this one did too. We'll be back with more about the Cannabis Nation tomorrow, right here on The Full Melt Show.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.